Coming up on the Doctor's Hospital podcast.
We probably treat more end stage or late stage disease in the Bahamas than anything else.
Wow. This idea of manning up could be redefined or should be redefined as, manning up and accepting the realities of what's happening.
I think it's important for us to be cognizant of our roles in assisting others and helping them to feel okay.
Doctors Hospital is reimagined primary care. We have invested to improve our health system, ensuring that accessible, affordable, world-class clinical care is closer to you. Your relationship with a primary care provider shapes the foundation of your overall health. Our new, modern primary care facilities are where critical diagnosis and true personalized treatment begin. With locations across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Exuma, we invite you to experience the Doctors Hospital difference. Book your next appointment at clinics.doctorshos.com.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eddie Russell, and welcome to the Doctors Hospital podcast, where we connect public health issues to what we do here in the Doctors Hospital healthcare system. I am the Learning and Development Specialist within the GLOW office, our hospital's wellness solution. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. This is our first visual podcast. And we dead clean. They don't ever focus on men. But this is a good way to start off this particular podcast and in this format. So welcome. I'm introducing Dr. Ken Bazard, who is the sports medicine physician within the Doctors Hospital healthcare system. And we have our esteemed manager of Carlyle Bethel, who's going to be joining us on this important talk about men's health as we kick off Men's Health Month in the month of June. So, gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So, I just want to start off from the beginning. When we talk about men's health, what do we mean? I know that there are 8 dimensions of wellness. And so when we talk about all of them, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, environmental, financial, and social, in addition to professional, what do we really mean when we talk about men's health? Anyone can take this.
So
one.
you made a great outline there.
Yes.
Those 8 things are perfect to look at, and each one of those can have their own show.
Right. Seriously.
Seriously. But as a physician, when I hear men's health, the
Mhm.
first thing I think about is what are the clinical issues
Mhm.
that affect men in the Bahamas, and we tend not to think about the mental issues. And it's good that now we're starting to focus more on that. But what I think about when I hear men's health is what are the clinical, including the mental issues that specifically affect men.
Yeah, because we're just on the heels of Mental Health Month, which is a global celebration and awareness for the world. And earlier you were talking and saying that you didn't even know we had a Men's Health
I
Month.
didn't know.
So
had
this
no
is the
idea.
focus. Carlyle, when you think about men's health, what do you think about?
Well, I initially, as you were going through the different categories of them, I was thinking, okay, at least from my experience and circles that I'm in, when I listen to men talk and the things that are important to them,
Yeah.
it's okay, they care about that one, but not really that one, and that one, but not that one. And so the financial health is a big thing. A lot of men feel as though like, we take on the pressure of the financial
Mm-hmm.
responsibility in whatever circles we find ourselves in. When you look at data, men don't really take advantage of the medical side of things.
Mhm.
We don't really take that seriously for a number of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the big things or recurring themes amongst all of this is with men in particular is this idea of when is it okay to ask for help? When is it okay to go and get help? How to do it, and what does that mean for me, and how well do people see me if I go and ask for help? And I think all of those things compound over time, and so it's like this silent buildup. And so when you speak about those underlying diseases, it's the same thing, right? It's like this ticking time bomb, and eventually it's gonna just hit that point.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we focus and let men in the community also know that they matter I think a lot of times when we hear about assistance or we think about health, and I think this is kind of framed by, men being the provider, right? And it seems like that's the only thing that we're asking men to do, just provide. But sometimes the health aspect of it is as a result of all this provision that they're rendering to their families, their friends, their companies that they run. And so, touching on the diseases, I wanted to ask Dr. Bazard, what do you think are some rising diseases currently, and trends with regards to men's health within the country at this moment?
So, of course, the Bahamas is still well known, unfortunately, for being the third most obese country in the world, and that leads to a host of other diseases. And so we can approach this looking at it generally and specifically. So
Let's do
generally,
both.
generally, men in the Bahamas are obese, and we have a rising, and seems to be we're not being able to bring this under control. We have a rising number of men with diabetes and high blood pressure, and we know those two diseases can lead to worse things with heart disease and arterial disease, and even debility or disability when you're older.
Right.
Specifically with men's health, you see we still have a really high incidence of prostate diseases, whether that just be prostate enlargement or prostate cancer itself. We have a lot of men actually who travel for treatment to get specific, or they get now the darling is the robotic surgery for prostate disease.
Right.
What I see in my specialty, that, and I don't have data really to support this, but what I see a lot in our Bahamian men is joint pains, specifically lower back and knee pain. And even I've seen quite a few with a lot of arthritis in the hands. And I believe that's because we have a lot of men who still do manual labor.
Okay.
And couple that with either being obese, with poor nutrition, with low activity, poor posture, not taking care of yourself, not exercising, it just augments that even more. So you see around 40, and most of these men I see are between 40 and 50 years old. They come with terrible back pain, and they don't show up when the pain starts. They show up after they've had the pain for so many years, and now it's so bad that they can't sleep.
Right.
That's when I see them. That's when they show up to me.
So I guess it touches on that concept of men going to the doctor as a last resort. Why do you think that is? Because I know that there's a issue of, or maybe there's a line of fear and pride, and because again, touching on what you said earlier about not wanting to ask for help, even though this is you, this is your life, this is your body. Why do you think we men always wait the last minute to do it?
I think that men we're programmed to be fixers, and we kind of feel like if we can't fix something, that we don't have any use, and that can be good, but that can also be dangerous. And usually, when we apply it to ourselves, it becomes dangerous. Couple that with we put ourselves either second or last. All right, and so what you get is poor self-management, poor self-care. The third and the triumvirate of this is culture. And in our culture, men don't go to the doctor until you don't go to the doctor before you're 60 years old. You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have to. You got a cold, you got a cut, whatever you do. You
don't go to the doctor.
You don't go to the doctor. You put some tape on it. You're all right.
So, Doc, do you think that there's a bit of like ignorance is bliss in this? I know something is wrong, but I don't want it to be confirmed. And so going to the doctor will make that now real.
I find that is also cultural too. I find that is also cultural. You think if we don't go to the doctor, it doesn't exist. They're not gonna what they say. Don't claim it.
Don't claim it, right? Yeah.
I always tell them you don't have to claim it. It's gonna claim you.
Right.
You don't have to claim it. So we say, oh no, I'm not gonna go to the doctor. So once he doesn't diagnose it, it's not there.
It is not real.
Right.
It's very in fact real. I think that also plays into this culture of be strong, don't complain.
Yeah.
That we see very pervasively when we talk about men's health, just in the global sense. And I wonder what does that truly do for us? Like when you hear be strong, don't complain, what is the impact of that on mental health?
You know, I when you say it, I just remember growing up and hearing all the time, you know, man up, you know, if you're crying, stop crying, man up. You know, you're big boys, you know. And I can see how that can compound and grow. Just as a plant starts out as just, you know, a little stem, but it grows into a tree, right? What starts out as just man up now becomes don't complain, don't say anything.
Yeah.
And so I think that, you know, maybe this idea of manning up maybe could be redefined or should be redefined as, you know, manning up and accepting the realities of what's happening and the status of your body and the pain that you are seeing, or maybe, you know, going to find out what is factually happening with you, as opposed to just living in ignorance or believing that you're invincible. So I think maybe it's something that should be tackled that needs to be tackled at a younger age with the younger generations, or do you think this is something that we could reach with our older men?
Right.
Or is it are they stuck in their ways?
But you hit the nail on the head. Manning up is not about remaining in ignorance.
Right.
Manning up is about facing what's in front of you.
Right.
So if there's an obstacle in front of you, you have to face it. That's what man up is supposed to mean.
Right.
Let's redefine it. I guess as you were talking, I was thinking a new slogan could be man up and go get that checkup.
There you go.
Man up, get that checkup.
That's our slogan. Unofficial slogan.
Well, I know you haven't touched this yet, but there's one thing about the checkup that I think that keeps men from going to the doctor.
Yeah, it's the prostate
one thing, especially after 40 years old. And, you know, that stems from a bit of homophobia, but, you know, it's also a very unpleasant examination. I've had it done once.
Yeah.
And I don't think I need to go again. But that's just the man of me saying that I don't need it.
Right.
But thankfully, technology has improved. And there's a lot of other options now for getting
virtual colonoscopies. And
there's lots of other things you can do now, maybe more expensive.
Right.
But it's still a quick examination that can be done on the spot, especially if somebody comes to you with glaring, obvious history and symptoms. You absolutely should still do the tests. But that's one of the things that keep men away from the doctor.
Yeah. And Doc, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've seen, at least while here at Doctor's Hospital and being in conversation with other physicians, prostate cancer and issues with the prostate, they are curable if they are curable and easily addressed if you catch them early.
Right.
They're one of the more curable forms, but it's when you wait and you don't get checked up.
Yeah.
And now it's too late. Which is just so fascinating when you think about it, is this fact that something that can kill you if you leave it. But if you just go to check it up early, you can save your life. And still men say, you know, I ain't going.
Yeah.
I'm not
going.
It's
again back to culture. We probably treat more end stage or late stage disease in the Bahamas than anything else.
Wow.
In both the public and private sector, and that's more expensive to treat.
Right.
Yeah.
The late
That's
stage
what it really
disease.
costs.
Yeah. So that's when the cost really goes up for the family and for the system itself. So really, and you know, we started the primary care push years ago. I don't think it's really caught on really as well as it should. But the truth is, like you said, it's so easy to detect these things early. It's easy to treat it when it's early. And as a matter of fact, prevention or at least reduction of occurrence by just changing our behavior is another thing that could prevent us from having to go and see the doctor or have that issue anyway to go and see the doctor. So
I mean, you say prevention is better than cure.
Prevention is better than cure, but we don't, again, for culture, we just don't do it. we'll have our I hate to
Yeah,
call
yeah,
bamboo
yeah.
shack.
No,
name.
go
Fried
down.
chicken,
Go down
I
the
fried
road.
chicken, I fried chicken.
I love
Chicken in the
bamboo shack.
bag.
Bamboo shack. I love you.
Chicken in
I
the
love
bag,
you.
yeah.
But
Chicken in the
We
bag.
can shout anyone out.
I'm down to twice a year. I only have it twice a year. My birthday and my mom's birthday. Twice a year.
You're
Right?
doing good.
But I mean, Bahamian food and especially Bahamian junk food is tasty.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
We
tasty.
do have a lot. of
And
tasty
you know,
junk
we
food.
have a lot of enjoyable beverages.
Yes.
Companies
many
out there produce some nice stuff that we like to enjoy, and other behaviors that we partake in, of course, smoking and cigars and those things. But again, because of culture, these things are very we overindulge.
Mm.
We overindulge in these things, and we don't do what's necessary to keep our bodies clean.
You talked about overindulgence, and I want to switch gears into the space of mental health because typically I find that stress, depression, and anxiety always kind of brings that overindulgence. It kind of spurs that on.
Mm.
Um, do you think that is being overlooked within the community of men? Mental health, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you spot on because a lot of people they turn to that bottle as a source of relief,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you know, versus say exercise, right? There's some people who do choose, okay, I'm stressed out, let me go for a run, let me go lift some weights, let me, you know, and that's a good way to deal
Mhm.
with stress and pressure. But there's some people who turn to that bottle or the cigarette, and they don't provide real relief.
No.
They may provide some short-term sense of relief, but they're just compounding the issue down the line. And I don't know, Doc. I don't know how you.
I think one of the key components of mental health is education, and education starts from just a conversation.
Mhm.
I think it's very important for men to pass on to our sons, younger brothers, our juniors, that it's good, it's okay to have an outlet, and that's what we're talking about here. We're talking
Yeah.
about an outlet to relieve your stress. You're gonna have stress, all right?
Mhm.
So you're gonna have pressure, you're gonna have stress, you're gonna have responsibilities, you're gonna have expectations you need to live up to. What we tend not to do is talk about how to deal with the stress.
Mm.
So those outlets end up sometimes in violence. They end up in alcohol, like you said, drugs. Our generation, thankfully, we had video games. But most times it's in destructive behavior, unfortunately. Especially if there's no education, there's no conversation,
Great.
it ends up in destructive behavior. So that's why it's so important to make sure that we can educate. And I think as young as you can, you help, especially young men, because we have this thing called testosterone that kind of changes some of our behavior, or it makes some of our behaviors a little bit more excessive. So we have to explain to our young men, listen, it's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, you're going to have challenges, that's going to happen.
Mhm.
This is what you do when it happens.
Right.
You know, you find, and it's not a bad idea, again, stigma and culture. It's not a bad idea to find someone to talk to and say, hey, you know what, this is how I feel. I'm in high school, I have exams.
I'm
But I gotta play it. I have exams coming up. I gotta make this grade. I'm not doing well in this class, but I'm the captain of the team, and we got playoffs coming up. I gotta go to practice, but I got coursework to do. My mom wants me to do housework. My dad wants me to do yard work. Right,
Yeah.
A
right.
lot of these-
So it
it's-
sounds. We tend to trivialize these things at that age,
Mhm.
but for somebody that's not that experienced in life yet,
Right. No, I remember in the moments that seemed like
that's a lot.
That's
It
a lot.
feels like a lot.
That is a lot.
Now
That is
to
a
me
lot.
it's not a lot.
Right,
But back
right.
then at 15, 14 years
Right,
old,
right,
you know,
right.
Christmas morning I'm painting the wall while my friends are riding up and down,
Yeah.
past me in their bikes. But I'm saying, we need to start at you hit the nail on the head. You got to start at that young age,
Yes.
and it's all about, when you talk about mental health, is conversation, education. That's the most important thing to me.
I think there's an element of awareness that, and I'm a huge advocate for self-care, particularly mental health, mental self-care, because I believe that once you are aware, you can start making better decisions, but you need to have that awareness first and foremost. Speaking of awareness, I was thinking about how the perceptions of masculinity and just manhood, what difference is it for our fathers and how we see it now? What's the difference between that now? I know our fathers are probably the ones who are perpetuating, not by any fault of their own,
Mhm.
this idea of man up, stay firm, don't complain. And I think I wanted to know if that tide has changed in the way that we now see men's health in general.
Yeah, I do. So I have no scientific data to prove this, right? But I do get from my conversations based on the age group, right? I can see and hear the way that being a man is described.
Right.
And I think one of the big differences that I see between an older generation and a younger generation is with the younger generation, there is more of showing up in your whatever environment you find yourself in, showing up not just physically, but also emotionally,
Being present.
being present, spiritually, being more less about let me fix it and do it, and more about okay, how can we find common solution? And it's almost more of a more appreciation for the more genteel side of things, right?
Yeah.
And I think a part of that, and I don't know what's driving it.
I think it's a global, I honestly do think it's a global, it's in the zeitgeist when you think about how we even view masculinity and self-care, because I can't tell you if my dad or his grandfather ever participated in any form of self-care.
Right.
It was probably under the guise of an outlet, right? You go out, you have a drink with your boys, and that could be nice. That's a bit of social self-care.
Right.
But also I think right now we're more attuned to the sensitivities of each other. And I think we're also more attuned to we're being focused now, or being forced now to focus more on ourselves. So when you talk about it being genteel and the way that we've been, I guess, conditioned to see these things, I always wonder like what is also being passed down to our men these days with regards to like masculinity, self-care, all that stuff.
So definitely, we're having more conversation than before. Like you said, we're looking at these things more. We have our month now, which I'm just learning about. I'm just learning about
Slow
it.
and steady progress. That's slow,
And,
steady progress right there. We got a month. We got a month.
We got a month.
But my dad would say, we don't need a month. What you need a month for?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What is it for? What is it doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just encouraging. It's just reminding you to do things you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But like we said, with the generational thing, my father taught more by example than by conversation. We didn't really start to talk until I was in my maybe mid-20s, until I was about married, almost married. You know, that's not saying he was like hyper masculine, and he didn't partake in bad. You know, he didn't drink anything, he didn't smoke anything. Church man, but at the same time, you had expectations. You know what you're supposed to do, and you do it.
Right.
And that's really it.
Right.
If you didn't do it, there were consequences.
Right.
And those consequences were delivered quickly.
Right.
So I don't think things like that need to change. What I think is, like I mentioned before, the conversations, we need to have better conversations with our young men.
Correct.
I don't think the concept specifically of masculinity needs to change. But like we said, man up and get the checkup.
Right.
Getting a checkup is masculine.
Yeah.
Right.
Taking care of yourself, taking care of your mental health is masculine.
Yes.
Right.
all right, taking care of your family, taking care of your business is masculine.
Right.
So there's no need. I don't think we need to redefine masculinity per se. I just think we need to
Start
teach
talking
it
about
better,
it.
start
Yeah.
talking about
Right.
it,
Yeah.
but talk about it better, talk about it more,
Right.
and start teaching about it more and better.
Because it's interesting that you point out too, like the type of conversations, right? Because I remember growing up, I grew up in a fairly large family, a good sized family, sisters, brothers, and when I look at the type of conversations that my sisters had with my mother, there was a lot of health driven conversations. But when I look at the conversations that me and my brother had with my father,
None.
I could count on one hand, right?
I've had none.
How many?
It was,
And
right?
the quality.
And if there was an issue, if this hurt, go talk to your mommy, right? Go talk to your mommy,
Yeah.
right?
I've had none.
Like, right.
I didn't know.
And even in medical school and after medical school, I'm a certified physician, and I try to have a conversation with, hey, Dad, you need to start doing this, start doing that. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. I only went to medical school, but no problem. I don't know what I'm talking about. That. Go ahead and drink that stuff. No problem.
You only happen to work in
I just happen.
healthcare field.
Yeah, so you're right. We can't let ego get in the way. And as you said, we need to have better conversations and realize it's okay, and it doesn't decrease or impair your masculinity at all to have a conversation with your son about how he feels about something.
Correct.
I wonder if it's truly as a result of not having it done to us, or them not having it done to them, and so they don't truly know how. I remember specifically. This is Mom. I'm gonna bring her in this for a second. I remember, and she changed after this revelation. So one day I was young and I asked her, I said, "Why don't you hug and kiss us?" And she said, "Well, my mom never did it to me." And I said, my fast mode, just because she didn't do it to you, you gonna do it to us?
Well, you brave.
And I ran away.
You're brave. You're brave.
And after that, I kid you not, we became this. It's 6 of us. We became the Brady Bunch. We became this unit where it was always that after that. And she kind of spared it. And so I say all of that to say, sometimes I wonder if, because it's not being trickled down to, or it hasn't happened for them, if it's the reason why it's not happening for us. And then the other question to that is, at what point do we switch and make the change to start having more affection and start having more conversation about the things that actually matter, like health? I always wonder what is needed to kind of get that switch going. When I also talk about men's health, I wonder if workplaces and clinics and government organizations and agencies are actually doing everything they can or enough for us to keep this conversation
keep it
going.
So I would ask you, right? So you were in Glow, and you speak about workplace wellness. So for the male business owner, for the male who is maybe up in a high executive place, is it their job to provide, to ensure mental health of their staff and of their company? Or listen, I employ y'all to come here to work. I employ y'all to come and get the job done. And that's all that I really care about. Everything else you dealing with is you, right? And I know a lot of people have that view, and I want to get your view on that.
I would like to quote a very great man, Dr. Charles Diggers. He says, "Be inquisitive and not intrusive." So if somebody comes into the organization or is in any space and they are exhibiting, because it's real social awareness, right? You come into the office, you're not feeling your best. You're not Carlyle on 10.
Right.
And I know you ain't Carlyle on 10.
Right.
On this particular day, and I see you at a Carlyle on 2, I never recognized that. The social awareness as your manager, the social awareness for me would be to talk to you and inquire if there's anything going on that you would want to talk about, not specifically to me, but to talk about to somebody. And I think mental health and men's health in particular, as we talk about this topic, is something that's everybody's business. I think your job as a leader in any organization, whether it's church, civic, amongst your friends, I think it's important for us to be um, cognizant of our roles in assisting others and helping them to feel okay. Your job is not to go into their lives and I want to know all your business. You don't want to do that.
Right.
But you want to have some social awareness and be inquisitive enough to at least care, because the reality is, if we are to equate health with wealth, and mental health is now at the forefront of every single thing that we do in the world now, and it's always been. It is, I think it's incumbent upon any leader, any manager, director, C-suite exec, VP, to at least be inquisitive about the mental health or the health of a colleague or someone that they lead. Because you are only as your company is only go as far as the weakest link. And if your weakest link is someone who is failing in their health, you're gonna either one, fire them because you don't care, or two, if you be inquisitive and assist and try to get them on the right path, because you only could take them as far as they want to go.
Mhm.
You take them down that path. I think it shows a great deal of care to not only the people who work in your company, but for your company as well. Because when you think about it, and I'm gonna end on this one, when you think about it, these people represent you.
Mhm.
So they represent you and the money that you're earning and that they're earning for you. And if they're not a true representation of who you are as a person, and what your company represents, it's important for you to recognize that whoever you have in your charge, man, whoever you have in your charge, they are a representation of you. And I think that's where we can't just have companies and build companies and build businesses and think, oh, I don't care about the people. They just come to work, do the job. It is an exchange.
Mhm.
But we spend 8 hours, sometimes 12, sometimes 16, um, in a space. The least it could be is healthy and happy and wholesome for the people who are in the space. So y'all know I can run on and on with this. But
Well, for me, I have a small staff compared to Doctor's Hospital.
right.
Um, I try to achieve balance in everything that I do,
Mm-hmm.
and then I also try not to be what's the word? Be mindful
Mm-hmm.
that not everyone has the same personality that I may have,
Mhm.
and may not have the same either goals or dreams.
Mhm.
They definitely don't have the same household, or didn't grow up in the same household that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to have bad days. People are going to have problems that they're dealing with. At the same time, as your employer, I expect a certain level of behavior. So achieving that balance is difficult. For me, I agree that you should absolutely be concerned. Dr. Diggers is one of my dads too. So be inquisitive,
He's all
yeah,
our dads.
fine.
In some
But
ways.
I'm not going to be intrusive. And I'm pretty sure he would agree that if whatever is going on with you is affecting business, that is a problem. And we're going to have a discussion
Mhm.
about it. I don't know if we can have it more than once though.
Yeah.
So it all there's some balance you have to try and achieve.
Yeah.
And you can't even manage everyone the same,
No,
Right.
no.
right?
Everyone
So
is different. I think it's also important to remember that you also, if you see somebody in your space, and they aren't exhibiting, the qualities, you could, the response, I could bring this awareness to you, but the responsibility is also yours, to your point, to make that step ahead as well. It's not I think we take on, again, being men, we take on the responsibility of all of it,
Mhm.
right? But it's also sometimes we have to relinquish that responsibility and hold people accountable. And I think a lot of times accountability is the thing that stops us from um being what we need to be, and guiding people into what they need to be, because they don't want to be accountable. I could be accountable, you could be accountable for your company.
Mhm.
I need this is the output I need.
Mhm.
But that,
we have to be careful with that though,
yeah. In which way?
because you have to be careful about relinquishing responsibility.
No, not responsibility. I think it's the accountability part of it. When you
Right.
talk about the responsibility for that particular person, not the company itself.
Yeah. So there's a lot,
Clarify.
there's a lot of talk about accountability these days.
Yeah.
You see it all over social media, right? This word is, I've never heard it so much in my life.
It's
Right.
needed.
But it's always existed though.
Always.
There's always been accountability,
Yes,
especially on the end of far as being a man is concerned or masculinity is concerned. There's accountability. What I'm saying is you have to be careful about saying I'm not responsible for certain things. As far as my house and my home is concerned, I'm going to teach my son the same thing. If anybody stub their toe in my house, it's my responsibility. Yeah, they got to watch where they're going, but it's still my responsibility because whose house is it? It's my house. And if you're going to man up and that's going to be your house, then you have to be responsible. That's how it works. So you can't have the responsibility without the accountability. So yes, I understand there's some self-accountability with that person who might have hurt their toe. Maybe they wasn't watching where they was going, whatever. So now what do? Somebody falls down. I remember at in the area where the cashiers are, the level kind of changes there. You remember in Doctor's Hospital, guys?
It does, yeah.
It kind of changes there.
Yeah.
Somebody trips down there. What happens?
Yeah.
So it's whose responsibility is it? It's Doctor's Hospital responsibility. Even though the person should watch where they're going, yeah. But it's Doctor's Hospital responsibility. If it happens twice, well, put up a sign or something.
Yeah.
If that doesn't work, level it out.
Yeah, but
It's your responsibility.
Right. It seems like, these are two different things, but they go hand in hand, right?
Nobody fall down there.
One being the first aspect is, what are the things that you are responsible for?
Correct.
Right. And as you mentioned, as a man, as a father in your house, in our homes, we are responsible for certain things. Then when you have the things you're responsible for and your kids and the children and your wife, they all have things they're responsible for. Then it doesn't stop there. Then it's okay. We are accountable to those things that we are now responsible for. Now it's okay. Did you follow through? Did you step up? Did you get it done? And then it's a question of, well, if you did, good job, thank you. You did what you were supposed to do. And if you didn't, why?
Why?
What was the issue? How can we fix it?
Yes.
How can we do it?
Yes.
And so they kind of go, yeah, everyone's responsible for something. And so therefore we all going to be accountable to something as well.
Yeah, we have to be. It goes hand in hand, like you say. It's literally one hand in one hand and on the other.
Yeah.
I think our producer said we have about a couple minutes. So I'm gonna get to this question just to kind of wrap up this conversation, which has been very enlightening. Thank you so much. What do you think is one small but powerful action men can take this week with regards to men's health and just going forward to putting their health first?
Self-reflection and evaluation. Make it simple. How's my nutrition? How's my activity? How's my mental health? Make it real simple. Those three things. And with mental, I will wrap in spiritual as well.
Yes, for sure.
So those three things will help you achieve those other 8, the financial and all those other things. But take a self-inventory and say, how am I doing with these things? Okay. Just like you said in the last question, what needs to be done here? Did I do it? No? Okay. Let's do it.
Yes.
Or if I didn't do it, why didn't I do it? Or why can't it be done? Let's fix that and let's get it done. Sounds daunting, but when you simplify it, and my wife advised me once to write things down. I hate paper.
Make it plain.
So
I love to write.
So I use my phone. I hate paper.
I got about 3 or 4 lists going right now.
Nah, I use an app for that.
I
don't like paper. I don't like paper. Man.
Feeling?
You gotta feel it.
You gotta feel a pen.
Nah, well, I could write on my phone.
Right.
But again, when you could see it though,
Right.
when you could visualize it, I'm a visual person.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
when I look at my to-do list, it makes a sound when I press the button. It's ching. Man, I love
and
that
to
sound.
take something off a list.
I love that.
That's
I
a
love that.
validation. I love that.
So you create a list. You create a list, and you say, okay, 3 subheadings: health, physical. Yes, health, my physical health, my medical health, and my mental health. What do I need to do to fix these things? Here's what I should do, and then do them. If you need assistance, get it.
Yes.
Simple as
I have
that.
nothing to add. I think he's
Okay.
spot on. I think he's spot on. I mean, that when you asked the question, my mind went right there, and I think you hit the nail on the
Yeah.
head. Spot on. I have
I
nothing
think
else
so.
to add.
I
to
think
that.
so. I think that kind of wraps it up. Really, honestly.
Yeah.
I wonder if I could tell a short story.
You may.
I heard a story last weekend, about President Carter, who recently passed.
Mhm.
Such an interesting story for me. But he apparently applied to be a part of this very high-level submarine team back in his day. And he went to each person has to be interviewed, right? They have to take an exam and physical and all this stuff. Each person had to be interviewed by this admiral who's like extremely intimidating, really respected, highly respected guy. So he interviewed every single applicant.
Mhm.
Now, President, at the time, Mr. Carter, he probably scored, I think, a 47, something like that, out of 100. So he wasn't even supposed to have an interview, but the admiral decided to interview him for some reason. So when he interviewed him, he said, and he ran through all the questions, and the admiral asked him, he said, did you do your best?
Mm.
All right. And he stopped, Carter, and he thought about it for a second, and he said, okay, should I tell him I did my best to sound like, that was my absolute best? But he knew that he didn't do his best. So he looked at him and he said, no, I didn't do my best. And he said, the admiral looked at him and said, why? And he had no response.
Mm.
And he said, that's why you're not going to be on this team.
Dang.
And he had to live with that.
Very
And he
sobering.
said that was his sobering moment.
Yeah.
And from there, he started on track to become the president of the United States.
Wow.
Is that incident right there?
It was like chill.
Doing
That-
his best.
Yeah, you gotta
After
do
that,
your
it
best.
When I heard the story and he said that why, I was like, and that is the weight that men carry. You didn't do it. Why?
Mhm.
And you have to be accountable and answer that question.
Mhm.
No matter what anybody says, only you have to look yourself in the mirror and answer that question. That's the weight that we carry. And it's a heavy load. That's why we need help carrying it from our family, from our spouse, sometimes even the children,
Mhm.
and from our good circle of friends, from the healthcare system.
And if you need it, health,
Yeah.
actual professionals, medical
Absolutely,
professionals.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
So that's the weight that we carry. I think that sums up the weight.
The intensity of
intensity
the
of it.
role of men in the society.
Mhm.
Gentlemen, it's been an amazing conversation.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having us. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm honored to be in the company of two great men. On behalf of my producer, Gally and Johnny, who are in the back, and the men who are here on this podcast, I want to thank you all for being here and being a part of this. Stick with us next time for the Doctor's Hospital podcast, where we continue to bring you the best care now.
Welcome to Doctors Hospital West, your trusted healthcare partner. Our warm and friendly staff ensure a positive start to your visit. Kindly complete this form. Relax in our comfortable waiting area where we prioritize timely care. Our compassionate medical team addresses a range of urgent healthcare needs. We provide on-site lab and imaging services for quick and accurate diagnosis. Your health is our priority, and we're here every day to serve you. To learn more, visit our website or give us a call. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now in the West.